National Fire Radio.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of The Size Up by National Fire Radio, where what you do off the job matters. And I am super stoked to get to my guest today. But prior, I'm going to, lay it out there like I do, because I always lay it out there as a bad podcast host, I guess, or whatever you want to call me. We were getting all set up in the background, and we're getting ready to go, and we're doing all our pre-show stuff. And I looked down, and I had to take a phone call, which is like, I feel like it's like a bit unprofessional of me to be like, hey man, I almost was going to hit the record button and I wouldn't have stopped recording for this phone call because that would have just been totally disrespectful. But I'm like, just give me a second. I got to do this. It's for my son. Declan managed to hurt his ankle at a trampoline park on his 12th birthday, which is never fun. But a positive, as Tracy and I said for that one, was like, it was our kid that hurt his ankle. Like, thank God I didn't have to call another parent who dropped their kid off and be like, hey, I just threw your kid on my back and carried him off the trampolines over to the table because he hurt his ankle. And some of those kids were a little bit bigger, so I was kind of happy I didn't have to carry those kids on my back, maybe. But I could have done it. I definitely could have done it. But I had to take the call to set things up with his physical therapy now that he's going into. He is fine. He had a walking boot for a month, no real damage, but he stuck it out there like a trooper. But that's just, again, one more of those things when we talk about being off the job in our family lives that comes up. And I feel like I can't speak to the PD side or really the EMS side, even though I did work in it so long ago. But definitely on the fire department side, I know we have such a huge family culture that our families extend out besides just kind of our brothers and sisters at work, where we're kind of all involved in everybody's lives that you're friends with and their families. Because look, we're spending extra time together at work, we're living together, we're learning about each other. And it's really interesting because a guy that I worked with yesterday was talking about taking his kids to their first concert, and they're still on the younger side of things, like maybe like 7 and 4, right around that age. And he had suggested a few bands, and I was like, man, I don't think that's the right age for that, the right group for that age. Like, you want to find like an Imagine Dragons or an AJR concert that's a little more low key than Newfound Glory, which, I mean, nothing wrong. What was that?
Said Smash Mouth.
Smash Mouth, yeah, you could probably throw a little Smash Mouth in there if they're even still touring. You've dated yourself. I love it. I love it in the intro when my guest just jumps in because I don't really care, and that's the awesome part of this, right? But he was saying how, like, did you ever think when I came on the job you would be giving me advice about how to raise little kids? And I'm like, bro, I didn't think I would ever even know how to raise little kids. So it's scarier that I'm giving you advice now about that. And my guest and I today were talking about that just prior to jumping on. So I think we're going to have a great talk today just about life in the fire service and outside of it, and families and things like that. But they're intertwined, and it's like one. And that's something that we always have to kind of hold sacred and really appreciate about our career, is that we do get this extended family, whether they're within your department or like how Frank and I met, like way outside of our department doing something totally different and out there. And I cherish those types of relationships, and I'm excited to hear about even Frank's family life a little bit and the support that he gets. But like, let me be a little more amped up here because I have the 2025 World's Strongest Firefighter on this podcast as he's literally, if you're watching, lifting his shirt at home. Frank Boniello, what's up, brother? How are you? Just, where are we? 4 or 5 days after winning that title.
Hey Pep, thanks for having me on. It's just been crazy ever since we got back, just all of it settling in, and trying to get back to normal life, and then having this on top of it. It's a lot to juggle right now. Trying to navigate it as best as I can.
When you left for Ohio with a plan to become the world's strongest firefighter. But did you think after it happened that your life would end up the way it has this week?
Oh man, it's crazy how like you just go from zero to hero. That's the best way I can describe it, because I'm just an amateur athlete, and I do this for fun, and to achieve that, goal that I set out to do, and then for it to actually happen is just truly incredible. It's unbelievable.
I mean, being there and hanging out with you, I was really fortunate. I got invited to kind of like just call it like a private athletes type dinner with some of the athletes in the world's
Yeah.
strongest firefighter. And I was really fortunate enough to be seated right across from the handsome gentleman that I'm talking to right now and his wife. We went to Rodizio, and so Brazilian steakhouse style. And we really got to know each other, bonding over our love of eating all things meats, I guess is a good way to put it. And the fact that we were at an all you can eat place and they were carving off these very little portions of beef for us, right?
I was getting upset, they it's all you can eat, but they really make you wait.
and
Yeah.
then, and let me like the table that we were seated at, like I'm not a large man and Frank is not competing in the open category, but there were probably 5 or 6 open athletes sitting at that table,
Yes.
like getting child-sized portions of meat cut off for them, right?
These boys can eat. I was starting to get
And
frustrated. I was so hungry because, we been dieting down for the competition. Thankfully, I didn't have a whole lot to lose. I think I shaved off like 4 pounds for this competition. But you fast the day before, and then like that was right after weigh-ins, in the afternoon, and man, I was ready to eat, and just to get these slivers of bacon, as I refer to it as, uh, it was getting tough to
it was
not just go slice a piece
it
off
was
myself.
definitely an experience.
Yeah,
Right? Like when the guy was like, bro, just leave one. Like they could have literally just cut the slabs of beef off on the table and we would have been fine.
yeah,
But that was a fun experience, especially for me, having, just met you an hour or two before that, and only knowing Marcus and Harry from the podcast and things. But you guys welcomed me to that table with open arms. And I think that bond of firefighters and strongmen is what makes the world's strongest firefighter such an amazing organization and competition to be a part of.
yeah, absolutely. It speaks volumes on the brother and sisterhood, in the fire service. It doesn't matter what country you're from, what part of America you're from, but yeah, there's this unique bond that we're just um, we're a family. We all look out for each other. We all try to help each other, no matter what the cost. And there's no hesitation with it either. You know, it's just
I think that's a
it's
big
unlike
part too, was
anything.
like the no hesitation, right? And that speaks to the
Yeah,
bonds of firefighters too, where like we're right there for each other no matter what. But you're literally competing with someone head to head and cheering them on the second you just have nothing left in the tank, right? Or offering them advice. Like I saw a lot of that too. Competitors offering advice, especially at the finals backstage with that fire
oh
hydrant
yeah.
lift when so many people had never lifted a fire hydrant before, right?
Our friend from Ireland. It's like, I've never seen a hydrant before.
It
What
was
is
actually,
this
what the
thing,
fuck
man?
is this? What the fuck is this thing? I don't even know what they are.
Yeah. So Harry was the veteran, I would say, with that event. 2 years ago, I believe, 2023, and he made it to finals. That was an event that year, and he was just offering advice and what he could, to just bring up everybody. And
Yeah,
sure enough, I
and
think
that's what's
almost
needed.
everybody finished that event. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe everybody finished that event.
So I'm thinking back, and everyone got all of the hydrants up on the level they had to, but I do believe one of the athletes couldn't stand it up in enough time, and she just missed it, like seconds, meaning just missed it, the
Yeah,
cutoff.
yeah.
But
It
when you
was,
get to see everybody cheering everybody on like that to me is enough, like for a spectator, you know?
yeah, the fire department is a tight knit community, and then like with the firefighter strongman, it's even tighter. I'm sorry.
No, you're right. It totally is, right? Like, and I got to spend those days with you guys and girls and really see that and really be welcomed into it as being someone who, I do like to lift and I like to lift heavy things, not at the level of like, let me pick up this 300-pound shield and walk around with it as far as I can level. But it was great to watch.
Oh yeah, he'll make a man out of you.
Right? I think too, like my scary part is actually now meeting all of you and getting a lot of thank you messages for doing the media work, but also getting the so you're competing next year messages, right? And I'm like,
Oh
no,
yeah,
like who put that in any whatever group chat I'm not in that you guys are talking about that with? Just stop.
yeah. It starts with a rumor, and then I don't know. We'll see what happens next year.
Great,
we're
lucky
just
me.
we're just planting the seeds. You're gonna start thinking about it now, and who knows?
Yeah, the online bullying doesn't start until like June probably, where it's
Are you ready?
yes. Can you do it? Like, let's go. But we're gonna get way more into the competition here and talk about the events and maybe explain a little more. But let's get a little bit more about you, Frank, and kind of your backstory of how you got yourself into the fire service in the first place.
One moment. So I joined the Air Force back in 2011, and when I enlisted, there's a few jobs you can that are available and that meet your criteria based off your ASVAB score. And one of those jobs was firefighting, and recruiter was like, "Hey man, I got you a sick job. Let's do it." And so that's how I got introduced into the fire service. I just you know loved it, and I spent 6 years active duty. Um, and then when I separated, I decided to continue that path, working for the Department of Defense as a firefighter, and went a couple other places, and currently now in Colorado at the Air Force Academy.
So, active duty Air Force firefighter, are you more concerned with the Air Force like ARF end of it, like planes, or is it structural? Like, was there a divide there? I don't think if I asked
So
that
we
question right.
do, so we do both. Yeah, it's kind of dependent on your military base. They all have like their unique missions, but most Air Force bases have airplanes. So yeah, we're on
Generally speaking.
generally speaking. So we're involved with the ARF, like the crash side, and then structural as well. So
And that's cool. So, where in the Air Force did you get to go to any cool, like, overseas bases and work or any of that kind of like, see the world story? I think that's the Navy. Very sorry. I know it's the Navy actually, or probably the old Navy, but I'm still saying it. See the world.
um, yeah, so there is opportunity to see the world in the military. The longer you're in, the more opportunity you have. Uh, the first base I got orders to was South Korea. So I
There
was
you go.
19, leaving the country for the first time, and it just opened my eyes a little.
Yeah, I mean that's a definite right when you're going to a place like especially South Korea, on the opposite side of the world as a 19-year-old and just trying to like see, hey, what's out here?
Yeah, yeah. Definitely a culture shock for sure. You know. Um, from there, I got orders to South Georgia here in the States, and then deployed once for a 6 month deployment. So nothing
And
too much
again,
to
South
speak
Georgia,
about
kind of a
there.
culture
It's a Air Force
culture shock in South
deployment.
Georgia though. Culture
Yeah,
shock in South Georgia too though.
yeah, it's hot. So many bugs there.
Where were you originally from before? I don't think I asked that question when we were talking.
So I'm from Kansas City.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we did talk about that. I just didn't know if that was the first place or you ended up back there for a brief time and then bounced.
No. I thought about it for a while. When I was getting out of the military, um, I was like, do I really want to do this still with, Department of Defense, or, do I want to go city? And I just decided against it. The freedom that comes with, I guess, the federal side of it is that I can choose if I get hired at a base, I don't have to start from the bottom, my pay stays the same, and you can just move around if you really want to. So uh, that isn't exactly feasible, at some city departments. So
Well,
once
it's
once you're there,
100%
you're
not
there,
feasible at some city departments. I
Yeah.
can speak for that. Once in New Jersey, once you're hired by a civil service department, there is no transfer for us. You're in that department until you retire, unless you choose to separate and then go start all over again.
Yeah.
And it's something
My
too. I find it like I know in other states like California, Florida, people do transfer around and their pension allows them to do that. Their departments allow them to do that, but not like
yeah.
the federal system where you can literally work anywhere in the country that has a job offering, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's I worked in Missouri for a little bit and then came out here to Colorado. So I think we got here in it was right after COVID. So 2020 or 2021.
Well, listen, man, if you ever want to come to scenic New Jersey, McGuire Air Force Base is only Joint Base Dix McGuire is only like right out my window. Like C-130s fly over. I'm in the circle, man. I got them all day. So, just
Yeah.
saying, New Jersey's a cool place.
I have family in New York, so I know they want to see me. It's been a while.
So, but I like the way you said that too. That like when you were thinking about whether you wanted to go to a city department or stay in the federal system, that's something that's really important for people. You have to balance the pluses and minuses and what works for
Yeah.
you in your specific situation.
Yeah. Something that's always drawn me to the city side is the less hours, less hours of work. I mean, those hours are more intensive, but it's trying to manage the work and like home life balance, So
Yeah, I mean the federal schedule from everyone I know that works in the federal system is not the municipal schedule. Is an easy way to put it.
yeah, we put in a lot of hours, and it can make it tough because since I'm a father and husband, want to spend time with the wife and kid, and you just we do our best to make the time off count. My wife does a great job
And
at
that's it.
that. Like anytime I have a weekend off, she's like, we got to do something. So it's real easy to
I
like,
could totally see her doing that.
yeah, it's real easy to kind of fall back and just like, "Oh, I just want to relax. I don't really feel like doing much. But then once you get out, you're like, this was a great idea. Thank you. So I
Well,
can't give her enough credit for
especially too
that.
with your daughter and seeing life through her eyes, at her age right now, as being way younger, like that experience in and of itself is the best, man.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We took her to the aquarium not too long ago, and it's just, it's so funny. Just amazed at all the fish, and mispronouncing them, and it's just great.
Those are the moments, like I told you before we were recording. Pretty soon, you're picking them up at high school parties, and I have a son, and there's difference with a daughter. So and I would imagine you getting out of the car though at drop off for a high school party is gonna impose some other folks there to be very polite to your daughter.
Yeah, and hopefully, I can set the right standard and like uh for an example for her.
Yeah, and that's a big part of what you're doing already. As the world's strongest firefighter is setting that example of the work ethic that you have to get you there, right? And was that something you feel like athletically, and then even in the military, like had you had that in high school? Were you an athlete? Were you dedicated? Were you putting in the training, or were you just kind of like, this came later in life?
No, so I've always had like just a passion for physical fitness, you know. Like I played football in high school and um you know, there's always that like who could bench more, who could squat more, you know, it's like you're always like trying to beat each other, you know, like, well, I did 300, like, all right, like, whatever. But back in my day, and then I did wrestling for I want to say 2 years, but I tore my ACL doing that and decided that I didn't want to risk another injury. So, um, and then I just kept up with you know, physical fitness throughout the military. You know, like we have standards to meet, but you just I've always tried to go above that. You know, so I really enjoy suffering, for lack of a better term. You know, it's just when you draw back from a different perspective, it's just like, why do you put yourself through that? And it's like, just enjoy it.
Yeah, that point for me, like later in life, was realizing that like I really did love the suffering that you get in fitness, like whether it be
Yeah,
running marathons or triathlons or crazy CrossFit workouts or hero workouts or something. Like I really didn't have that when I was in high school. Um, and I really didn't even have that when I started working out for real, like realizing I didn't want to be the weakest link in like I didn't want to be a weak EMS partner. That's what got me into lifting heavy was like because I'm back in my day when we had to actually lift the stretcher into the ambulance. There were no motors or any of these things that you have now. Fancy like how many? I don't even know. Like if I'm on an EMS still and I go to work the stretcher, I just stop because I'm like I don't even know how to work this thing. There's so many more buttons. It was much
yeah,
easier when we were just lifting them. But then I got that drive that you're talking about. Like again, when I started wanting to test and to get higher, that was it too. But I really didn't discover the end of it in fitness until I was a little bit older, I guess, already on the job almost into that stage. So it's always good when you can have that from high school and kind of carry it right into your life.
yeah. Um, I kind of did a lot of different things, you know, for as far as like physical fitness goes, you know. I started out doing like a kind of a variation of CrossFit. Um, it's called Seal Fit. I don't know.
Sure.
Uh, I don't really remember much about it. And then I got into powerlifting and I set some pretty good milestones for myself and I just kind of got bored. So then the next big thing for me was strongman and a buddy of mine actually he found the world's strongest firefighter event years back and he's like you should try to do this and then I think the first year I tried to it was when they were doing like video applications,
Okay.
you know, and like the selection was really limited and you know back then there wasn't a whole lot of like advertisement for it so it was like it was hard to like figure out how to get into it, you know, but eventually I made my first appearance in 2023.
Well, that had to be like 2022, the video submissions, because it hasn't been around exactly that long, right? So you
No,
had to
it
miss maybe 1 year and then get into the next, I'd say.
yeah, yeah. The funny thing was it was my first strongman show ever, and no background in it at all. I was like, whatever, we're doing open class, world's strongest firefighter. And I don't think I weighed any more than I do now, like right around 235. And I was like, we're gonna do open.
We're gonna knock this out.
Yeah.
How did that work out for you?
So funny enough, Gary, I believe you met him at the
Yeah.
Brazilian
Yep.
Steakhouse as well. Yeah, so
Yep.
we both competed that year in open class, and we placed like right around 20th. Like, and then the next year, 2024, we had the same idea to compete in middleweight. We're like, we're so much close. Why didn't we do that in the first place? We were the
I
two
love,
finalists from last year.
when you hear world's strongest firefighter, right? It's imposing to think that, right? But it's just
Yeah,
words,
yeah,
and I met so many people there this year who were competing not only in the world's strongest firefighter for the first time, but in their first strongman competition, just like you did that
yeah.
first year. One who made it to the final stage in the women's category.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
and was literally, she was like, yeah, just like a month or two ago, I was like, let's do it. And here she is, competing at the end. But I think that for folks listening, you know, anyone can do this who puts their mind to it and who trains for it and who wants to go and have a good time. And I think
yeah,
that's a big part of something that over the next year we can help build with this, right?
yeah, absolutely. Something that you know, I go off of is like I'm never trying to beat anyone but myself, you know. I set a really high standard for myself and that I know I can reach, and it's not about beating up other people, like it's just personal goals that I would like myself, to be able to do. So, uh, other
And I
people's
found that
personal
with
goals is just competing for the first time, and that's absolutely welcome. We encourage that.
I found that with so many of the folks I met too, whose goal was to be better than last year. So if they finished 20th last year, they wanted to finish 19th this year. And they did, most of them. Or, they carried the shield 180 feet last year, and this year they carried it 205 feet or whatever that was. And that was such a consistent theme with everyone there, was beating themselves more than beating the firefighter next to them.
Yeah, absolutely. You just baby steps, and then over time, it's really going to show a difference between where you were, last year and where you are this year or next year. It's really cool to look back on like old, like video footage I have of myself. Like, I thought I was strong back then. Like, I wasn't.
It is, right? I totally wasn't. Look how weak I was in
Yeah,
2003. I only deadlifted 720 pounds 5 times. This year I did 800 pounds 5 times. I was so weak.
yeah. I think it's
But
good
I
to
think
like
too, like,
acknowledge the progress that you have made, because it can be
and that's it.
difficult to like you want to get to a certain level, but understanding that it takes time and then like acknowledge all the progress that you've made, and like know that you're on the right track.
Yeah, being out on that stage with everyone else, like you're totally on that right track because everyone out there put in the work for however long they've been training just to be there and put on kind of the best show that they could, which I thought too
Yeah.
was another cool thing about Strongman. Like, and Noah talked a little bit about this on his episode, and I didn't quite understand it until I was an experience with it more. But it definitely has that little bit of like the circus strongman type feel. Like it's a party over
Oh
there. Like
yeah.
everybody's having a good time.
Yeah. Just I mean, strongman in itself is like a lot of history goes back to like circus events, and then like the firefighter one just brings in a lot of like unique events, and I feel like they try to do some things that are a little more specific towards firefighting, like
Sure.
I don't know if you'll see another hydrant load event anywhere else. I
But that
think
would be
last
cool
year we
because
did
they are odd to lift.
yeah, yeah, they're if anybody has access to one, try it out, and let me know your thoughts.
Yeah, you could check that one out. It's on if you go to Arnold Sports Fest Live or type in World's Strongest Firefighter 2025. The link to the final events are all on there, and you can watch all the final competitors do the fire hydrant lift, where they went from a lighter hydrant to a heavier hydrant. I believe there were 5 hydrants in total, and it was all
Yeah,
had to be done under 1 minute. And it was interesting to watch some people's technique, and that the fact that there was such good technique involved in how to lift those.
I apologize. I have the work. I may have to. Can we take a minute?
You could duck out. I'll talk while you duck out to do what you got to do. No worries. I know exactly how that goes as I'm staring at Clarice, and you all know sometimes Clarice does not participate in the podcast, kind of like Frank's dog is not there in the background. Although, due to our editing software, you may actually not hear the dog barking as much as he or she is. But two, and these are the things that, like, what's the reason for me to pause when I can sit here and talk for a little bit? But this is life, right? And I like that about doing this podcast is I try to keep it as real as possible because if there's one thing that emergency service providers see through immediately, and that's the BS of it all, right? And there's no reason for us to have any type of BS in this podcast because life happens. Sometimes you have to go and put your dog away. Sometimes I've had to leave to put my dog away. And that's just the way life goes, right? We handle life as it comes at us, just like we handle calls as it comes at us. And one of the cool things about World's Strongest Firefighter is that they have live announcers. So you can watch it online where there's a live announcer, or for the crowd, there's a live announcer as well. And they kind of float in. A few people are firefighters, a few people are strongmen. And to listen to Yoni do his shtick while he was up there announcing, he's not a firefighter, he's a strongman. So we were feeding him lines about firefighter things to use for the event that was going on, and he was just running with it, which I love. But that part of the show too kind of gives that like WWE feel of like, let's get everybody pumped up in the crowd here, right?
I missed half of your conversation, to be honest with you.
I was talking about Yoni kind of pumping up the crowd while you guys are competing and getting
Oh,
that kind of
yeah.
WWE vibe going, right?
Yeah, it's always awesome having a good announcer that just hypes everybody up, you know?
He also pulled no punches. Like he would survive in a firehouse because if somebody out there messed up, he called them out on it in a second.
Oh,
Like,
really?
oh my God, yeah. So many times
Yeah.
in the prelims, like it was like, oh, hope that wasn't a person you just dropped like that or something along those lines. Like just like good
Straight to
like
the
firefighter
jugular,
digs.
huh?
Right straight to it, right? Just like the kitchen table. Like he got it. He
Oh,
understood the
yeah.
assignment.
You gotta have tough skin, that's for sure.
And again, it was amazing. So let's go through just a little bit of the events for everybody, because I
Okay.
learned all about them too. But in the prelims, the first one was a log clean to press, right?
Yeah, so it was log clean and press. You had 60 seconds and as many reps as you could do. There was a light option and a heavy option. Um, and any rep that was done on the heavy beat out any rep that was done on the light. So if somebody got one rep on the heavy one and another individual got 10 reps on the light one, their one rep would beat them.
And so I know I saw a lot of gameplay there with people running to the heavy and trying to get that one rep on the heavy. And if they couldn't, with like 20
Absolutely, man.
seconds left, getting a few reps on the lighter one.
Yeah, if you try and don't succeed, you got to get as many points as you can because the a strongman show is based off of points, and just each event you get points for, and at the end the scores are all added up, and that's how you determine who's first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and on.
So that event went down first. Then the second event, and that event too is more of like a traditional strongman event, or even like an Olympic lift, essentially a clean and press with the log. Not necessarily firefighter related, but the second event was the shield carry, right?
Yeah, so that was an adjustment on the fly. I believe we were supposed to have like a metal shield to carry, but we ended up carrying a sandbag shield, which it's a little bit different of a carry. Some people may be a little more unfamiliar with it, but yeah, sandbags are rough, man. Uh, they are. Their own unique, like, just beast, and none of them were light. I was honestly, like, surprised at the weight they threw on there, because, like, for for me, I feel like the metal Husafel stone or shield carry would have been easier. Um, that's what the majority of us were training for. But sandbag, it definitely gets to you quick. It's
Yeah, is
different,
the metal
but
shield,
similar.
would the metal shield be thinner?
As far as, like, the depth of it, like, away
Yeah,
from you,
like what you're
it would
wrapping around.
it would have been a similar size.
Okay.
There's a lot of, like, play, as you call it, in a sandbag. So, like, um, like, nobody really has, like, the same type of pick, if that makes sense. And then, like, a shield, like, it's just, uh, I feel like you can get a better grip on it. It digs into your
I
arms a
don't
lot more. Got the scars to show, but
I really feel like though that for firefighters, and listen, I love training with sandbags, even heavy sandbags, doing stones over the shoulder with a heavy sandbag. I love doing that because I feel like for firefighters, that movement that even you guys had in the shield, that mimics a job related movement, whether it be another
oh
firefighter, a
yeah,
victim, a hose pack. So I think that was the right move
lift
for them to
assist.
have the sand. Lift assist, yeah, we talked a lot about lift assist, right? And getting behind someone, but even that from the ground, like having to squat it down, get it into your kind of lap, and then not only get your arms around it. So what I witnessed was the people that were able to get their arms around it with a tighter grip probably went further. However, that's also suppressing your respiratory system.
Yeah, it really bears down on your lungs. Like, something that I've just noticed watching film and stuff is you have to be able to pick the bag higher up. Um, if it's hitting your legs more, it just slows you down. You're you have more resistance, and it just fatigue catches up with you quicker. You know, so
It
it's
was
little tricks
definitely
of the trade.
interesting to
You
watch,
know,
which is good too because I know there were people asking in the back, like, I've never done this before with the sandbag. What am I going to do here?
yeah, a lot of us were, at a disadvantage going into that. So
Times I like disadvantages. It makes it more fun. It's more
yeah,
challenging and it's more firefighter related, right? Because we never know what kind of call we're going to go on. So I think that kind of threw a little good monkey wrench into the system.
yeah, just adapt and overcome. Never
That's
going to
it,
be
man.
ideal situations anywhere, in the fire service. So you could plan all day for something, but the second it goes wrong, what do you do? You know?
Figure it out, make it happen.
Yeah, that's right.
Then the next event in the prelims, kind of typical strongman type hex bar deadlift, right? What's next?
Yeah. And again, that one
So
was a light option and a heavy option.
which too for us in firefighting, we're deadlifting pretty much everything we're picking up. So that one is kind of like one of those. Granted, you guys were using way more weight, but it's a good exercise to translate into the emergency services.
Yeah. And hex bar is uh it's more friendly, I guess. You know, sometimes in deadlifts you have improper form, and a lot of lower back injuries with that. I've had my share of low back injuries from deadlifts, but the hex bar, you're in more like neutral alignment. So I think it was a good call to throw that in there because, all the firefighters still have jobs to go back to, and you don't want to see anybody get injured, because that's what really matters. Like, we do this for fun, but, like, they try to keep us, healthy, you know, and I think that was an important consideration they made for that event, you know, and
Yeah,
it's
because
just
you could
bringing
definitely have
something
somebody
new
blowing out their
into it.
back.
Yeah.
Oh, that was the first time for that?
Yeah. Last year, what did we have? I can't. Oh, we had a squat event last year. We didn't have a deadlift event. we had a yoke carry into a wheelbarrow carry. Yeah, and then finals there was a deadlift, but yeah, this year we had two deadlift events. So
We'll get to the second deadlift event because that's just silly.
oof.
But we'll get there because we're not there yet. So, but just silly, just straight. Watch like I'm still in awe at what I watched occur in front of me in that event. But the last event was my favorite to watch, and probably the one that I would want to do the most was the sandbag over yoke, where you had a lighter sandbag, a heavier sandbag option. You had to pick it up, run with it to a yoke, get it over that yoke, and then do the same thing again, but on a higher yoke. And to me,
Yeah,
that's the kind of fun stuff I like to do.
yeah, it was a race, for my weight class, there's a 250 and a 275 pound bag, and you have to run both of them over the first, yoke crossbar before moving on to the second one. And yeah, we had a little, another adapt and overcome situation thrown at us in that one. Uh, but everybody that went made sure to pass on information. So the sandbags were wet. It makes picking them hard, So
Definitely horrible, yes.
yeah, I know you could see some people's videos of just slipping right out of their hand and stuff, and you know, but all of us had, it wasn't like it was just one bag that was wet, you know. So everybody again at that disadvantage. So
And I think too, in that event, talking to Nick, the judge there, he was like, after, there were people that were not so happy, let's just say, about how wet the sandbags were. But then the next athlete got up and just crushed the event with that same exact sandbag. So it was one
yeah,
of those, like you're saying, adapt and overcome. Like this dude figured out how to do it. You just didn't, unfortunately, you didn't figure it out fast enough in a way. Where things
yeah,
like that are going to happen in competition and in life, and it just how it had to run, right?
yeah. It's not like they were drying off the bag in between rounds or anything. It's like it was brought to the judge's attention, and like, well, everyone's got to do it, because if they
Yeah,
change it for one person, then everybody who went
it's not
before
fair.
them, yeah, exactly. So, but
And I'm gonna stand up for
that
my
might
friends,
be
the
a
judges here too. You can't dry off a sandbag at all. Once that thing is wet, whether it's sweat or actual like water somehow, that thing's gonna be wet for a while. And the
yeah,
sand inside of it is just gonna keep kind of producing a moisture that makes it even worse. Having worked out with a lot of sandbags, I know all about this type of a thing, and it really is. It's probably the biggest like downside to the sand. Aside from if you
yeah,
pulverize it so much it turns into dust. When we talk about sandbag training, like that moisture coming out of it just makes for a slick, fun
yeah.
experience.
The canvas material. I mean, it might be a really cool like variation for them to throw in and some other strongman competitions. Like, all right, you got a wet sandbag front. We're just gonna
Go,
dump
let's
a
see how you
bucket of
do it.
water on it and see what happens.
It definitely provides for a different spectator sport.
There was an event like that. I remember it was one of the World's Strongest Man events. Uh, I remember Brian Shaw like running a sandbag through water, and then like if the bag drops, like you still gotta pick it up. The
Oh,
water was
oh
like
my
a foot
God.
or 2 foot deep, and oh man, see, that's cool. Like we, as just a strongman like enthusiast, like we love to see that type of stuff in there. Like, just the
See,
unique.
isn't that the best part? That you guys are just trying to be more unique and more like I can just say publicly that maybe I was at a really cool dinner table another night where a lot of new events were spoken about that they were looking
Yeah,
for firefighter input, like from me. I was the only firefighter at that table, but like it was pretty cool to hear some of these ideas when they were asking me about like strongman events that correlated over into a fire service way. Is that an easy way to put it? So who knows what could be coming next year, man? Maybe it's like be ready. It's a good way to put it, but it's cool that
That's,
you're into it too. Like I think all the competitors want more of that, right?
yeah, absolutely. Um, we like the unique challenges and stuff that's not too far out of the the general like training and stuff we do. So,
Yeah.
um, keeps things interesting, keeps them fun, you know.
And trust me, I had to walk back some of the folks I was at the table with because I was like, no, that's not how things happen. Like, stop watching firefighter movies. Like, we're not gonna do it that way. Like, there's no way you should do it that way. Like, I just kept saying, I'm like, they're all gonna be mad if you did it that way. Like, we have to try to do it this way, type of thing. So
Let's
it
just,
was a cool conversation. We'll see what happens next year.
yeah, yeah. Well, just please not turn it into CrossFit because
Don't worry. Don't worry. All I was just a firefighter subject matter expert, nothing to do with the strongman side
I was kidding.
involved in this very random conversation. But I think too, that day one with 120 of you out there, the crowd was just all day nonstop, not just, your family members, like sometimes we see at smaller events, but folks that were at the Arnold, like, wow, these folks are firefighters, like sitting down, like with their popcorn, just eating and watching, which was amazing.
Yeah, the firefighter event at the Arnold just brings so much attention. It's absolutely insane. You know, this this
Yeah,
is
and the
it's
more the
wild.
merrier, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
that's it. It's wild is the easiest way to put it. Like, because there's so many things to see and do at the Arnold too. But I felt like people just kept gravitating to where your event was happening as they found out
yeah,
more and more about it. So,
yeah. Maybe they heard the party music next door, and then just like they saw us and like, oh yeah, this looks way better.
like, we don't need the club over here with these guys. Or,
Yeah,
or they were just standing in line to get into that booth and happened to be like, well, I guess I'll watch this too while it's going on.
music was so loud. There was smoke machines. It's like, oh my god. Just
Did you
it's
catch the
the
big gorillas? Did you see
I
the
didn't
gorillas that were in the booth?
did not.
Oh my God, they were like 10-foot tall gorillas, like four of them dancing. I'm not really sure what was happening.
Yeah,
It was an
we can move
experience,
on
but
from
that was
that.
that was day one, and day one kind of whittled that field of 120 down to the top four women, or top four females, uh, top two middleweights, and then top eight opens, right? I think.
Yeah, so there was two women's classes, the top two from each of those, and then we had two lightweight men, two middleweight men, and then eight open class men make it to finals. If I'm tracking right.
No, you're right. I just forgot the
So
lightweight, which is so strange for me to forget that, considering I'm totally
yeah,
lightweight. So it's disappointing on my end right there. So those folks got to compete in day two on one of the main stages at the Arnold. And if you've ever been to the Arnold Sports Fest, the main stage kind of is like right in the middle there, and everybody sees you from pretty much any part of that venue or knows what's going on. So that stage alone was just intimidating to be on as a guy with a camera. But then you're going out there to hit your of first event was the ambulance tire clean and press, right?
yeah, yeah,
Had
and
you
like
ever
just
done that with tires?
not with tires. No. They
Because it
they
was
have
straight.
these. It's called like wagon wheels. It's just like a really tall plate. I think it sets the bar like maybe 13 inches off the ground. I've done it like that, but never on tires.
Yeah,
Brings a
the
new
tires made
element
it
of surprise
interesting,
in
but it
there.
definitely made it good to watch. Almost a surprise. AJ Butters almost took a bar very close to her grill when it came back
Those,
down.
yeah, when they drop from all the way up, it's scary to watch because the tires just, with the amount of weight on the bar, it bounces like 4 feet off the ground. Like it's
And I mean,
dangerous.
how much weight did you have for that one?
275.
Yeah, so 275 coming down from overhead and then two tires, and that 275 is bouncing. I mean, AJ had less weight, but her bar definitely bounced 3 to 4 feet in the air, I would say. So it
If you
makes
could
for
like
an
figure
interesting
out,
thing.
if you could figure out how to like bounce it and get underneath it,
Then you're in. Then you're in.
yeah,
See,
get a
it's
few extra
firefighters. We're
reps,
always gaming the system. Like, if you're not gaming the system, what are you doing? Like,
they would have called it for sure. No
yeah,
reps.
that one wouldn't have worked. So then the second event for that day was the silver dollar deadlift, where they were increasing the plates, right?
Yeah, so there was 4 rounds, I believe. You start at your first weight, and then they added for the men's classes they added 90 pounds each round until you got to the fourth round, and then you did it as many times as possible.
Which was just unbelievable to watch. And one thing that I was told on day one about strongman, I definitely saw it on. I saw it on both days, but in this event particularly, when you think of other fitness competitions, people go until they just go and go and go and go and go and go and go. Even when they can't go anymore, they're usually still going or just kind of falling out there, let's say. But in strongman, it was pointed out, and it is definitely true. When you, as the athlete, know you're done, you're pretty much done. Like there's nothing left, and there's no more trying. Is that a common theme in strongman events?
Yeah, I mean, like you only have so much like physical capacity, and I mean, you know yourself better than anybody else. You can push yourself over that limit, and competitions are always the time to do that. But yeah, there's once you hit that wall, it is, especially for like deadlift events, it is really hard to get past that wall. So, you know,
And you also have the fact that too, right? Like you said before, like nobody wants to get hurt because everybody's got to go to work on Monday or Tuesday, or maybe even in somebody's case Sunday from that event. So they were
yeah,
all kind of keeping that in mind. I think you could see that as a constant theme.
yeah. I mean, yes and no. I mean, sometimes your competitive drive just takes over and you have like no reservation. You're just going like as hard as you can, you know. So,
I can say that everybody was definitely putting out as much, like leaving it all out there. There was no one that
yeah,
didn't leave it all out there, which was so cool to watch too. Like it was nobody going through the motions, which you rarely see in competition, but you could tell people were leaving it out there. But with especially with the silver dollar deadlift, because a lot of people did reach their limit because that repping out was not happening for everyone because that's a lot of weight. But they would
it got
run
heavy.
right over to whoever their competitor was and start cheering them on.
It got heavy very fast.
Like a 90-pound jumps is crazy.
So for the open weight men, I believe theirs was over 1,000 pounds, and
I think I
then
got up to
for
105 or 1,005, I think.
yeah, and then for the middleweight, I know we were above 900. So
The plate
it's
math was
tough.
interesting to watch.
Yeah, because there's plate math, and then you have to factor in like how much those like the implement itself weighs. So like the
Yeah,
attachments. So
definitely check that one out on the website too. That's out there because it was cool to watch, man. Watching everybody just leave it all out there for those deadlifts and watching even the volunteers dropping the plates on just makes it like an amazing experience because you're locked in that whole time. They drop the plate, your judge's hand goes up, and most people were going right up when it was time to go. I loved it. That was a great event. Then we had the fire hydrant medley, which we kind of talked about there, which is an
yeah,
amazing one to watch. And now we're going to get to the part that Frank probably doesn't want to talk about because he definitely has to talk about himself and the fact that not only was he named the world's strongest firefighter, but he was presented the trophy axe by none other than Arnold Schwarzenegger himself. What was that like? Like I was standing there, I saw you, but like I can't even. I get chills thinking about it. Like,
I was just when they started announcing the top three. Um, and then they announced second place. And then I looked at my wife in the state, like in the crowd over there, and we just kind of like made this general eye contact with each other. And like at that moment, I had a feeling that, you know, it was me, because I don't like to keep up with the scores during the show. I feel like it's a distraction. Um, and I just, I want to give my best. So I like to just stay in my lane, try not to worry about, how everybody is doing. But I know I was doing really well. And then, but yeah, just to be presented that axe by Arl is a little starstruck too. I
You're
grew up
standing
watching
right
his
there,
movies.
bro.
Yeah, the Terminator is handing me this axe and he's asking me to flex on stage. It was
Well,
incredible.
that's the next best part is he not only before he asked you to flex on stage and talked about your bodybuilding abilities, he also called you a very handsome man, which that is to me would be like, did Arnold Schwarzenegger say that to me? Like,
Yeah, no comment.
I mean, physical prowess, beauty, muscles, like he gave it
Oh
all to you, and,
gosh.
and you had to flex on him. Like you flexed on Arnold Schwarzenegger, like.
Yeah, I mean, he asked me to do it for the crowd. It was great. Just unbelievable experience, like he was the founder of this show, and to have so much of his like influence in there too, like just because he created it, like he's still like involved in it and he watches us up on stage, and to like know that he's watching you like do the hydrant load or something, it's unbelievable,
Yeah, and his love for firefighters is so pure and true because if you read his book or watch his documentaries, he speaks about firefighters there. And he got up on stage and spoke about firefighters, not just the competitors, but firefighters in general and what we do in a way that was just so respectful to all of us in our careers. That was just a great moment to be a small part of.
Yeah, yeah, just
So
wild.
you made mention of your wife, and we would be very remiss if we didn't talk about her for a bit because, like, you've
Okay.
talked about her a few times in the podcast, right? But her, what she does for you to allow you to train is just that support system. Talk about that a little bit for everybody out there.
So, you know, we're a team. We always, tell each other that. And with that being said, there's a give and take, in most relationships there is. And she gives a lot to support, me being able to go train for 2, 3 hours, and she's always been a supporter. She goes to all of my shows, like even when I was powerlifting, like always there, always got her phone out, getting videos and stuff. But I mean, she's she works full time, you know, mother of our daughter. So she has two jobs, and then yeah, supporting me, and um, yeah, I couldn't do it without her. So
And she's a
a lot of
super cool woman. I got
sacrifice.
to have dinner with her too. Like one of the most interesting dinner conversations I've had in a very long time. We had all together there at that end of the table. But that support system, it means so much as a firefighter to have that home support system for what we see and do at work, but then to have it on that next level to help you to prepare for the competitions, for basically like not to say it in a degrading way, but to allow you to do your hobby, right? Your sport is
Yeah,
kind of your hobby, and that time, sometimes people aren't always as accommodating to that, and that give and take is right there, where you're out doing those things, but then you're going to do the same for her, and that part of a relationship is so good to see in the emergency services, and that's another thing at the show that I saw with so many people's partners or spouses there supporting them to a level of like whatever it took, whether it was massages after the competition or feeding them. The food intake was, I can't even talk about how much eating I saw going on at this thing, let's say.
Oh man, I had I had so much food during the show. I must have had like 6 Pop-Tarts, like 5 Rice Krispies, drinking carbo load. Like I must have had like 600 carbs like just throughout the show. Not to mention
That
like before or after it, you know.
the glucose levels there must have been psychotic just from
Ah,
everybody
through the
themselves up to
roof.
get out there. Yep. We don't even want to go there down that level, but their support systems and meeting all them, because I got to do a lot of, behind the scenes stuff and things in the crowds and interviewing those folks and just hearing their stories and how supportive they were of whomever their athlete was. And then everyone else, like you had guys and girls, kids there cheering on their mom or dad, but also cheering on the person they were going against.
Yeah.
So it was a really cool event. And so everyone out there, check them out. I've had enough posts about the world's strongest firefighter that you can go back and listen to 4 or 5 different episodes now with different competitors, not just the 2025 champ here, Frank, but there's a host, and there's going to be a host coming down the road, because I got to meet so many of them and get to know them, and then learn more about what else they do off the job aside from strongman competition. So I think we're going to see some. You guys may even be surprised after what some of the folks told me, to be like, I didn't know you did that too. Like,
Hmm.
pretty cool stuff from that event. So as much as I know you're kind of a shy guy, Frank, but where can the folks find you on social media? What's your handle?
It is FRBONIELLO.
On
Oh,
Instagram, that is. So put the
yeah,
ad in
that's
front of that one on
yeah,
Instagram. And then if you are watching the podcast, we forgot, Frank held it up a little bit, but where'd that shirt come from? We
This
wanted to talk
came
about that for a minute.
from one of the firefighters at the show, Casey Shue. Had the crazy look at his mustache. His mustache is on the shirt. Yeah,
No, his mustache is the Lorax's mustache. His mustache is amazing,
it was
like
close.
totally
It's
amazing
close.
mustache. It's kind of, I mean, he maybe at some point he probably had it curled, but for competition, he actually said prior to going out for one of the final events, like, "Is there chalk in my mustache? Because it'll look cool if there is."
Yeah. So before the show, he made a couple of posts about you know needing. I don't want to get this wrong, or misspeak on his behalf, but um, just to help with travel costs,
Sure.
he was selling shirts, and uh, yeah, it goes back to that without hesitation, helping other people out. So, just a little
So
thing he could
too, and
do.
and we could have said this before, but we'll say it now, and it doesn't bother me to say it. You think Arnold Sports Fest, World's Strongest Firefighter. Oh, like it is this humongous event, and it's on this amazing stage. But every athlete there paid their way to get there. They
Yeah,
paid their way to stay. They paid their entry fee. They fed themselves. Like, we're not, when we talk about these types of activities, these aren't professional sports, right? We're professional firefighters or volunteer firefighters or whomever was competing. This isn't a paid athlete position for Frank. Like, Arnold gave him a really cool axe and a trophy, but not a big check yet. Like, that's maybe in the future, that's one of the goals of World's Strongest Firefighter, is to start being able to assist the athletes with their travel costs, with their registration fees. And there's a lot of firefighter owned businesses out there that I know are always looking to support good people and good causes. And
yeah,
so, if you have one of these athletes in your local area, it's a great person to reach out to do some stuff with, whether it be t-shirts or just different things like that.
yeah, absolutely. None of us got paid to be there. We all paid our way. We didn't get money based off how we did. It's all for fun. So, and then all the proceeds from the show go to charity.
Which is even better, because again, it's firefighters helping firefighters, and one of the specific things that the world's strongest firefighter is looking to do is to help some of the firefighters out west that maybe lost their homes while they were fighting the wildland fires. And they've done that I know in Hawaii and in North Carolina, they've been able to provide some support for that too with the monies raised, which is just another cool reason to be out there doing it. Like that motivation alone is enough for a firefighter to go out and lift a Husafeld sandbag that's wet or something along those lines or whatever. I'm learning. I'm getting there on the strongman knowledge.
Oh, you're doing great.
I'm trying, man. I'm trying. But this has been pretty awesome, Frank. I'm glad we were able to get you on so quick. And was it horrible? Was this horrible?
No, no, not at all.
Like I said, Frank is a little shy. I know it. Compared to some of the folks out there, he's a little less animated, let's say.
Yeah, yeah.
Except in the moment, because dude, when you finish your lift, you are amped and pumped and ready to go. Like you're gonna rip. Like
Oh
I didn't want to
man,
be too close because I didn't want to get punched or anything. Like
just the adrenaline you get just from being out there, like the crowd and like the stage is like, yeah, it's crazy. Like you just
well,
kind of turn into an animal.
we're gonna have to work on your dance moves because the 2024 champ at the final busted out the worm fairly well for a larger individual. So
Did he really?
he finished his lift. Oh my god, yeah, he finished his lift and hit it like coming like right across the stage. So you
I
better
should
figure
have threw
something
it
out
back.
for 2026. Now it's like a champion thing. So I think 2026 you got to have a good dance move, dude.
I if somebody can find it, a fellow firefighter in Colorado is competing. Colin Fay, he did a sandbag run, and he was throwing it back afterwards. So it was just
Just
hilarious.
getting down.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, 2026, that's what myself and all of the fans expect to see now because we said it here. So be ready. We'll work on dance lessons.
Yes, we could all get together and do a line dance. It would be so much fun. Put it on TikTok.
We'll break TikTok. Like, well, we could do it. We could
Oh
totally
man.
break TikTok. You ready for the size up 10, man? 10 quick questions that never go quick.
Sure. Oh,
We'll see. This is an odd one for someone in Colorado, I guess, but we'll see. Number one, beach or mountains?
mountains.
Just got to throw it out.
Yeah.
Plus, you've had a bad experience with sand recently, so I can understand the
I
reasoning
like the
why.
beach. I like the beach. I find peace in the mountains, you know?
Yes, it is. And Colorado is amazing. That's one of my. I want to get back there just to hike because I had so many amazing hikes out there already. So,
Yeah.
and number two, a night out or a night in?
Oh man. I guess a night out, you know? That's like a loaded question, but like it depends on the night out. It depends on who you're with, you know?
No one has ever answered it that way before, Frank. That's the first time someone's like, depends who I'm out with. Number three, how about a movie everyone needs to see?
Oh, a movie everyone needs to see. God, my TV time
I
has been
stumped you on the Arnold
like,
line too. You're not a movie guy. I know you're not a movie
oh,
guy.
let's not bring up the Arnold quote, huh? All
Oh,
right,
dude, that's going to be
everybody,
out there eventually.
everybody needs to go watch Tropic Thunder.
100%. Yes. Yes, very much so. No one said that one yet, but you are very correct. Although you can't make it today, but everyone needs to go watch Tropic Thunder. Number four, you're on a cross country road trip. Who is your celebrity slash famous person co pilot going to be?
Oh man, it would have to be a comedian, a long trip. Yeah,
I'll take it. I'll take any comedian on it. A lot of people pick Bill Burr was just recently picked as a comedian. Um,
he's
Somebody else
hilarious.
picked another good one too. But yeah, Burr
Yeah.
is hilarious for sure. So I think I know the answer to this, but We'll ask anyway. Do you make your bed every day?
No, actually, no. I just leave it.
Oh, oh, this is why we do the size up 10. Listen, I size you up a little bit and some I can't be wrong.
I know, like, oh, he thinks he's, Mr. Champ doesn't have to make his own bed.
That's not even where I was going with that. I'll take it. Listen,
Uh,
leave it unmade. It's your personal prerogative, sir. I have
ah,
no
the
judgment
dogs,
on this
the
part.
dogs jump on the bed and they like scrape up the blankets and stuff, and you know, we just kind of. Sometimes we make it,
Blame the
sometimes we
dogs.
don't. He's
Gotcha.
still barking. I'm sure everybody listening can hear him.
So when you left, though, the program sometimes takes out background noise, so they may have never even heard any of that. Who knows? We'll see. We'll see what the magic of editing can do. All right, a couple more questions. How about a book everybody should read? Are you a big reader?
So I'm not a big reader. Um, I've There's like two books recently I have read. Um, one of them was "The Obstacle Is the Way." It was kind of a branch off like Stoicism. So
Okay.
like Marcus Aurelius. Um, and now I'm reading what's his one? Meditations. That it's all about
Okay.
like view and perspective. So you know, I think it helps a lot in just many aspects of life, just to view things differently and approach problems or stressful situations with more of a like clear open mind. So
I love
that
it, man.
has helped
Listen,
me out a lot.
any way you can make yourself better is what life is all about, and it never ends. It's that constant quest for knowledge and better than
Yeah,
yesterday.
yeah.
All right, which one are you taking, highways or back roads?
On the cross country trip.
No, on any day of the week. This one, different question. Just which one do you want to take, highways or back roads?
Okay, well, Colorado where I live, there's like one major highway, so I gotta say back roads. I have to take the back roads
Makes
to
sense.
work every single day. So,
At least it's scenic, though, right? It's probably a scenic drive if the
yeah,
sun's up.
it never gets old. It really doesn't.
How about a bucket list place to visit that you want to go to?
I mean, there's a few. I really want to go to Italy.
We
Since
talked about this actually in Ohio.
some
You
of
and I had
you,
this conversation.
yeah, some of you may not know that I have Italian heritage. Judging off my last name,
So,
I'd
man, there's
love to
nothing
go
wrong with
there.
having a last name that ends in a vowel, so it's okay. I'm okay with it.
Um, I'd really like to go to Iceland and like Norway, New Zealand. Um, yeah, there's a few places. I need to start by getting my passport. That would be great.
That would probably help. So, first start with that one. That's the first step, and then book the plane tickets. Don't go vice versa because it doesn't
Yeah.
work out if the passport doesn't make it in time. All right, which one? Well, I may know this answer too, but which one is it for you? Is it football or football?
Football. Yeah. No, I'm still a
Easy
Kansas
enough.
City Chiefs fan, even though they got murdered in the Super Bowl. But they're gonna come back, man. I'm telling you, stronger than ever. They needed the wake up call. I would have loved to see the three-peat. Everybody was hoping for it, but yeah, go Chiefs.
Not this year. Just and listen, I am not a Philadelphia Eagles fan at all where I am living here. It is I live in Eagles country. Um,
Oh yeah,
but they decisively won that football contest. They decisively won. We won't even say what it's called because the New York Football Giants were nowhere near even being able to play in it. So really
yeah.
wasn't a season for us this year. All right, last question, man. The best advice you could give to your younger self.
Oh man, be patient. All good things come in time.
I love it, man. That patience is something that, I preach to the boys and I preach to myself because throughout life, you still need it. It just is never something that isn't one of the top things to make you a good person is having patience with everything.
Yeah. Yeah. If you want it, put in the time, put in the effort, you know, whatever your goals might be, but be patient, The process is part of the end, you know what I'm saying? Like
Yep.
you really develop over the process, not just reaching your destination.
I love it, man. Listen, this has been a great hour or so of your time, man. I'm so happy you got to join me and we got to do it so quickly after the competition. So thanks
Yeah,
again,
it's
man. I
been
can't I
fun.
can't thank you enough. Good. It was awesome meeting you too. And it was awesome meeting all the competitors out there, not just like I have the champ. Like everyone out there is a champion just for going out and competing and having such a good time and being such cool people. Like I think that's really the my take home from that whole event.
Oh yeah, the organization's only growing.
That's
Every
it. So
year,
keep an eye
like
on them.
from the media production every year to like just the whole like entire organization. Like every year it gets better. And don't give them so much crap about what went wrong, but be grateful for what it is and what it's becoming. You know.
Spoken like a true champion, buddy. Right? That's it, man. That is the answer for it. And I think, that organization is going to grow and the event's just going to get cooler and cooler and more people are going to do it and it's just going to continue to grow to hopefully be even more events, maybe like something to get you to go to that big stage at some point down the road. But I think the folks that are running it are doing it right and they have that piece of advice, they have patience because they've been at this now for 6 or 7 years, I think, since that first year on the pier, and they just keep
Yeah.
getting better every year. So keep an eye out for next year, right?
Yeah. Everybody has an opinion on what to do better, but just let them do it, because truly
Or you
like
could always
every
step up
year
and help.
has, yeah, truly every year
I
has
know
got
they're
better
looking
and
for help.
better.
Nice, man. Well, this has been awesome. As always, as we wrap these things up, I want to thank everybody for listening. I do want to throw a special thanks out there to the world's strongest firefighter, John and Noah, for inviting me out, letting me be a part of the media team with Lance, who was just an amazing dude to work with and work for. I guess he was kind of my boss out there, right? In a way, even though he says he wasn't, but he was my boss out there. But it's one of those things that we talk about with a lot of the guests. You kind of put yourself out there and you take opportunities when they're offered to you, and you never know what could happen. I had a great weekend. I got to meet some amazing firefighters from around the world, literally. I got to be feet away from the Terminator himself, Arnold Schwarzenegger, as well as meet some other great just bodybuilding folks and fitness folks that I had never had the opportunity to meet before. And it was all because, Jeremy gave me a shot with this little thing called the Size Up in National Fire Radio. So let's just keep rocking and rolling until next time. This is Pip for the Size Up by National Fire Radio, because what you do off the job matters.
National Fire Radio.